Up in a painted cup, I will pour my love from a cloud above. So bright I can see the lights, taking you up and above the blue sky. Tastes good to be drinking all of the honey sweet brew of ours. Up in a painted cup, right in the sky like a firefly. Like a firefly. I believe to believe is to feel the fire grow.
So creating your artistic style can be overwhelming from the start because you've got all of those different elements to think about. And which one do you start with first? You know, do you remember from yesterday going through those style bricks? It could be that you've got some really strong style bricks and others that need a wee bit more thought, a bit more consideration, so you can really pinpoint what it is that is a true visual representation of what you love and what you'd like to represent, but also in using it, you can use as your expression too as an artist. Now, what I'd like you to do today is either use your bullet journal, fold out onto a couple of blank idea pages and paste in and scribble and stick and layer up things that you can find. Now, you've probably all seen inspiration boards of the past, and they're very often sort of pretty collections of things that people love, but I want you to do it in a specific way. Because we've been looking at how to develop your work as an artist, your style as an artist, I'd like you to use this as a framework. So if you need to go back and remind yourself of yesterday's lessons on the style bricks, I'll stick a link either here or here or here, wherever it pops. Remind yourself of those style bricks. You've got colour, you've got story, you've got materials, you've got inspiration, you've got influence, you've got method, tools and subject. And that's your 8 bricks that you are now gonna scurry off around the house, searching through the magazine piles, old books, letters, maybe cards that you saved. You might need to scurry up into the loft and have a look at some old treasures. And I'd like you to collect all of those images and visuals and words together. If in fact you can't find it in the home, use the computer and the printer and look for quotes that you love, look for images you love, look for colour palettes you love. So I'm going to create one here today. Sorry about that squeaky chair. Right, because we're in lockdown, we don't have the luxury of going out to WH Smith's or wherever to grab a few inspirational magazines and look through them, or go to secondhand bookshops and get some material that way. We're at home. I actually think that's a really good confinement to working, because sometimes when you're given too many options, you don't know where to start. So what I'm doing for you now is saying you're working with this framework and you've got this as your brief, and using those words, those elements, those style bricks, you're going to look for things that you want to put on your inspiration board that represent the colours that you want to use in your artwork, the stories that you want to tell, the materials and the methods that you might use, who put my teeth in, who inspires you, and who or what influences you, and what subject are you going to be creating artwork about. Now remember, a subject doesn't have to be, you know, an animal, a person, a house, or nature. It could be a particular strong point of view. It could be your feelings on a certain subject. It's just a point of focus in your artwork that brings everything together. So I'm going to do mine now, and I'm going to time lapse it for you so you don't have to sit through the ripping and sticking and all of that business. It's going to happen just like that.
Just like that?
And what I want you to do is obviously go and scurry around, see what treasures you can find for your inspiration board. Get that stuck down either in your bullet journal, or in fact I might use an old painting that I like, but it's not quite there, but I know it's leading me on the right path. But I might use that as part of my inspiration board, or actually my inspiration board itself. You could use an old painting that you actually don't like and you want to cover it with stuff that you do love. That's a really great way of going about it. So it depends if you want it to remain private in your bullet journal, or if in fact you want to be big, loud, expressive, and get it on a bigger piece of paper, piece of cardboard, an old piece of canvas that maybe you can reuse in this way. Once you've done that, I want you to have a look at that inspiration board and see if you can spot any common themes that are coming through for you. Some of the things that might pop out will be colour, subject, shape, typography, story, or even things like texture. It's weird sometimes, the things that you don't realise that you're attracted to until it's actually laid out in front of you. And I think it's a really useful exercise. It's another one of those things about getting it out of your brain and taking it from the abstract to the physical. And we're not actually writing today, we're actually licking and sticking. Well, maybe not too much licking. Put sticking, sellotape, and PVA glue, whatever you've got to get it stuck down. That I've got a painting that I'd started. This is just a little sketch that I had on the go for an idea that I have, and it's leading me in the right direction as to how I want to develop my skills as an artist. It's also helping me figure out how to tell stories in paintings as well, but not give away the whole story. Now, this painting doesn't look the way I want it to look, but it's a good start. It's good enough for the time being. But I might use this as the board and bring in all of the other bits and pieces onto this board to make my inspiration board. Right, I'm going to get cracking.
Up in a painted cup, I will pour my love from a cloud above. So bright I can see the lights taking you up and above the blue sky. Tastes good to be drinking all of the honey sweet brew of ours. Up in a painted cup, right in the sky like a firefly. Like a firefly.
So I tried to do that as quickly as possible. Obviously you've seen it even faster because it's a time lapse. But if I thought too much about, oh, is this tidy? Does it look pretty? Will I want this hung up in my studio? I got caught up in almost like my ego self of wanting something to look good. And you kind of just got to let your ego stay outside for this project, because you just need to get it down, because whatever you get down quickly will tell you the information that is maybe not so obvious to you. Your unconscious brain will know it, but consciously you'll be like, I ain't got a clue. So just looking at this board and thinking about our style bricks yesterday, the story that comes out for me is one of adventure, of discovery, of something being unbound, and almost like there's lots of energy to go out and discover. And there's a few reminders on here to tell me to keep my work loose. Don't get tight, don't get stuck into the detail. So a really great and easy place to start is with colour. And in fact, if you go onto Pinterest and you type in colour palette inspiration, you'll immediately see collections of colour. And they're brought together in a final image, but also separately by colour. And I find that really useful when I'm thinking about the feelings of colour. And I know we're going to get onto colour psychology later on in the challenge, but this is a little sort of taster into playing with colour and linking it to your choices and obviously your style as an artist. if you can tune into the colours that you like on those palette boards when you're looking through old magazines, old books, old cards, that colour combination, because you've just spent a few minutes looking at Pinterest and looking at that colour combination, when you go to look at other things, it will jump out at you. There's your starting point. So I tell you what's quite funny about this exercise at the moment, because we are on lockdown and we're working within the confines of our own home and whatever we can find in our home. I think you'll find what you need to find. You'll find the stuff that is meant to be there, that's meant to be found. And it's almost like your unconscious brain is speaking through your artwork. So I've done my board really quickly so I don't critique it too much. I don't let my ego get involved in making sure that it looks pretty or that I want it to hang on the wall. I just want my preferences to come through from my unconscious brain to my conscious brain. And when we're talking about colour, story and all of those style breaks, you can really start to see it happen. So, for example, colour. I'm really surprised. I mean, I knew I liked this colour palette immediately when I saw it, and actually it's been popping up in a lot of my work already. But what really jumps out for me, and actually through no design, I'm wearing the colour today, green is everywhere. Green is obviously a colour that needs to be represented a bit more in my work. And there's some colour complementaries and other colour theory to look at around that. So I'm quite excited about that. The story is obviously about adventure and having an energy that's unbound, almost like an energy to go on these adventures and seek and discover things. And I'm telling that through this story of figures. So there's my subject and figures are popping up. There's still animal references, but the animal references are related to the loose brush strokes. And I made myself dip my fingers in the paint and just get the paint on the board rather than get a brush and be nice and tidy with it. And that was because I wanted to remind myself to be loose, but I also wanted to connect everything together. So you'll have seen me working my way around the board. The inspiration that has been the input to doing this has been looking at Toulouse-Lautrec's figures, for sure, looking at artists who have very loose brushwork and looking at their close interest on their work, the textures that they achieve. And my inspiration to do this is I want to get better at telling stories, so I'm keen to figure out how to do that. And I really love, like I said before, when a story gives you a little bit of information but not everything. It makes your brain work harder and it makes the painting more interesting. The materials I've used are acrylic for speed just right now, but I know I want to play around with oils. So, and I can see that this is an oil technique. This was oil that I painted the original figure in. So there's my style bricks. I've got a visual representation of my style for my next collection. I'm pretty chuffed about that. That's going to stay in my studio as a reminder to myself as what I need to focus on, because it's so easy to get distracted by a different colour or a new tool or new materials. If I keep this as my brief, working on my next collection, I'll find that I've got a much more consolidated collection of work. And it's much more satisfying for me as an artist because it feels very well thought through. And from a viewer's perspective, it looks like you're telling more than just one story through one painting. You're telling a whole story through a collection of paintings. So it might be that you just want to journal a few things in your bullet journal tonight, just reaffirming, not tonight, but whenever you do this, just reaffirming to yourself what you've learnt about doing this process, because this was very much the theory yesterday. This was very much the theory yesterday. Today was about taking that theory and putting it into practice so it's visual. We were using the inspiration board to give us a framework in which to catch it. And sometimes inspiration boards can be a bit loose and a bit fluffy. This has been very specific because we're working to this framework, and it's giving us visual information, especially about what influences and what inspires us. Anyway, I would absolutely love to see your inspiration boards because I think they're all going to be so totally different. If you send them in, you can tag them over on Facebook on Sam Morris Cow Art. I'll collect them all there. And at some point when I get a few together, I'll do a little gallery so we can all see each other's work and see how different it is, but also get excited about what's coming up for us. I'm excited to see what you're going to do. Tomorrow is a lovely, sweet challenge. It's create a place to create. That in itself is so important to me, and it's so important to give the respect to your creativity as well, so you can do the best you can with what you've got. And we're going to talk through that tomorrow, and I have a wee challenge of maybe a little bit of a space makeover for you. Anyway, enjoy your inspiration board, and I shall see you tomorrow.
Up in a painted cup, I will pour my love from a cloud above. So bright I can see the lights taking you up and above the blue sky. Tastes good to be drinking all of the honey sweet brew of ours. Up in a painted cup, right in the sky like a firefly. Like a firefly.